to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say 'em loud, say 'em clear for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you see and agree that every man should be free. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say 'em so loud, say 'em so clear for the whole round world to hear.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Voice of Reason Boston. My name is Tamisha Civil. I'm your host. This morning, we have a pleasure having our immigration attorney, Bianca. Bianca has came on the show before. She was one of our first guests when we first started. And we're going to be talking to Bianca today about immigration during COVID-19, what has been going on, what new laws have passed, and how it's been for her with her clients during this difficult time. So we are happy to have Bianca here. Bianca, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. I mean, all things considered, I think I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on. And if you can just give us a little bit of introduction as far as what you do. I know you're an immigration attorney, but you can tell us a little bit more what your practice is and what you're doing currently right now.
Sure. So I'm an immigration attorney at Brazen Legal, which is a law firm that I've had for the past 6 years. Primarily practice immigration law, but I also help small business entrepreneurs with things like LLC formation, corporation formation, contract drafting, and trademarks. I've been working in the immigration space for about 10 years now, so I've seen a lot, especially in the last 2 administrations that we've had. I've gotten to see different sides of the immigration journey and story and processes that are happening. Right now, it's very, very challenging, but it's not impossible to still get immigration benefits.
Okay, that's good to know. How have you been dealing yourself, your personal experience during this pandemic? What have you seen? What are the things that you would like to see change during this time?
So COVID was pretty intense. At first, I wasn't too fazed by it because I'm an introvert. You don't have to tell me twice to stay home and wash my hands and wear a mask. So when they were like, we can't go around people, I was loving that, actually. I liked being away from people. My law firm has been virtual from day one, so transitioning into not meeting clients in person wasn't difficult for me. I'm already doing that. So during COVID, from a professional standpoint, wasn't that much difference. COVID did hit home for me. My husband got COVID. And so like it definitely did hit home for me. A couple family members also got COVID. So once that happened, I started to kind of really, it started to affect me a little bit, just thinking, okay, so now it's really like in my wheelhouse, people that I know are being impacted by this. But all in all, I mean, we all, did okay. I did have a couple family members that passed away due to COVID, but,
Wow.
all things considered, I think as long as people continue to wash their hands and wear their masks, I think that will be fine.
Yeah, and I know the mental effect of it could have affected you greatly because not only your spouse, you're living in that space with them, and how did you deal with it mentally? What were your thought process? I know your family, some of them passed away. My condolence goes out to you, but how was your thought process as far as what you're going to do going forward to protect yourself as well as your spouse?
Mm-hmm. So I'm still wearing my mask. I know that people are acting like COVID is over, the weather's beautiful, and everybody wants to be out and about and not wearing masks. And I'm still wearing my mask. I generally am a positive, optimistic person anyway. So even when everybody was all doom and gloom in March, I was still like sharing positive affirmations and focusing on the positive because the world around us sucks. It doesn't help to be thinking negatively and thinking the worst. So I was always very optimistic, upbeat, and I was kind of proactive with it too. Like I kept seeing everyone saying what to do to avoid getting COVID, but not enough people were sharing what you should do if, God forbid you actually get it. So I was kind of researching that because for me as an attorney, I work for myself. I can work from anywhere. So I was working from home. I don't have to go out. But my husband's a social worker and he works with the elderly population. So he has to go out and check on his patients. And that's actually how he ended up catching COVID. So I kind of wanted to prepare in the event that he ended up catching COVID because out of the two of us, he would be more likely to catch it. So I just started to look up, if he gets it, what should I be doing? I was giving him some, Haitian meds like Broncoflex, it's kind of like Haitian Robitussin in a way. I was giving him a lot of fluids, fever, which he didn't really have a fever, and just kind of monitoring him in that way. Fortunately, it wasn't so bad where he needed to be hospitalized or the ventilator. But I think that just being proactive might have also helped as well.
Thank you for that information. And that's very good ideas, to prevent, from catching, COVID and just preparing yourself for the future. And also you help small businesses. What are some of the things that you noticed with small businesses during the pandemic? What are some of the resources that you were able to provide and help small business stay afloat?
So weirdly enough, I've always been a small business immigration attorney from day one, but everything going on in this administration, my immigration practice has been a little bit busier than small business practice. And actually at the beginning of this year, I considered just like not doing business law ever again, just only doing immigration. And then with the pandemic, so many entrepreneurs were coming to me wanting me to help them with their LLCs and their contracts. And a lot of it was because they figured because the world was slowing down right now, it finally allowed them to really get their things in order. And they wanted to kind of get ready and stay ready for when the world reopens so that they can hit the ground running with whatever business ideas they have, or if they had an existing business, they wanted to be able to hit the ground running with better contracts because with COVID, a lot of people's businesses were impacted because their contracts didn't have a clause that said something to the effect of, if there's a global pandemic, we don't have to do this and that. So a lot of people were canceling contracts. We saw a lot of people getting laid off and things like that. So a lot of small businesses have been reaching out to me over the past couple of months, just helping them get their legal things in order. So that's been really reassuring.
That's great. And were you able to provide them resources? I know a lot of small businesses, there's some loans out there, but there's also some stipulations. Were you able to dissect the loan information for them to help them understand, well, this is what it means. It's not money you can take for yourself, but it is for your business and your employees.
So that's not really my wheelhouse. So I was able to forward them off to people that could help. Like my CPA had resources. Other accountants online were posting resources to compare the PPP loan versus the EIDL loan. So I was able to at least steer them in that direction.
Okay, awesome. And for now, what are the things that you encountered as a immigration attorney with your clients that were so worried during this pandemic that there's a possibility that they can still be deported? What were some of the things that you were encountered with that, had you second guessing, if any, or some questions that you had for them to reassure them that they would be okay?
hmm So I didn't have any moments where I was second guessing anything. When it came to
Okay.
the pandemic, I kind of just went in there. I said, let go, let God, whatever happens, happens. I didn't want
Hmm.
to speak negativity into my business. I didn't want to say,
Right.
okay, the pandemic is happening. People are going to
Hmm.
get laid off. No one's going to hire me. I just kind of left it alone, and whoever would come to me. Whoever didn't. And as far as my clients were concerned, some of them were laid off, so they were worried about that. I have other clients that were worried about deportation. Wasn't really so much of an issue because for a little while at least, deportations were being um, put on hold because no one could really travel anywhere. Airlines were
Right.
in and out. So
Hmm.
deportation first wasn't really an issue. And I don't have a lot of clients, at least at the moment, that are detained that needed to get out. But I do know a lot of immigration attorneys who did have clients that were detained were able to get them out. But as far as my clients, their main concern was, I really want to get my application in. Can I still do it?
Right.
And I think a lot of people had this misconception that because a lot of the world was shutting down, immigration was shutting down as well. And they weren't. Like the courts were still open.
Hmm.
CIS was still open. Immigration did not stop. Immigration will stop for no pandemic, especially with this administration wanting to keep the ball rolling when it comes to deporting Black and Brown immigrants. So none of that
Hmm.
stopped. So I kind of encouraged my clients that immigration is still going, and now really is the time for you to be getting those applications in because we've already seen, at least at the time, we'd already seen what this administration has done between the new public charge rule that went into effect in February, the COVID-related travel bans that went into effect in March,
Hmm.
and the executive order from April, and the expansion this week. So I knew that it was only going to get worse. So I was always encouraging people in a way to kind of help them be proactive, but not in a way that's supposed to scare them into action, just telling them,
Hmm.
this is how the immigration laws and policies are today. That can change in a week, in a month, or whatever. So
Right.
you can still do something about your case, I'd encourage you to do so because, again, it could get worse. It's going to get worse, and the filing fees are going up. So for me, it was just a matter of just, being in front of my clients. I saw a lot of lawyers, a lot of business owners kind of like putting their head in the sand, not working, just shutting down with the world, which I guess is, an appropriate response for some people, depending on how you're feeling about all of this stuff. But for me, I'm used in chaos. I started my law firm from a place of chaos. So I just kind of leaned into that and just made sure, just reassured my clients that I'm still ready and able to help you. Immigration is still open, so you should still be doing things for your case as well.
And what was your experience with the courts? Now, I know they were mostly doing virtual. I'm not sure if you were supposed to be going into the court settings, and were they giving you future dates due to the pandemic? How was your experience with
So weirdly enough, this year, actually March 12th, last time I was in court, and that's actually the very first time I ever had to practice in front of a judge live because all
that?
of my other cases have always been telephonic representation. I have a lot of clients that aren't in Massachusetts, and so because of that, judges are able to let you represent the client telephonically. It's like the judge just calls you on the phone and you're representing them. So I've always been doing that anyway, and that's pretty much what the court was forced to do now. They're forced to do more of that, more video conferencing. So it wasn't really a challenge for me because I'd already been doing these things.
Okay, great. And what were some of the resources that was available to you as an attorney to make sure that you and your clients are on the same page? I know a lot of people, they hear immigration and they hear what they want to hear, and especially during a pandemic, you don't know what's happening. What were some of the resources that you were able to use to let them know, I'm working with you hard here. I'm making sure that your paperwork is still being completed. I'm sending it in. What were some of the things that you were doing to reassure your clients?
So for one, I send out a weekly newsletter to all of my clients and even people that aren't clients as well. They get a newsletter from me every week just with the latest news in immigration, what they do, and then also I'm always checking in with my clients just to even if I don't have an update on their case, especially now,
Right.
everything in immigration takes forever. but I still check in with my clients so that they know that I haven't forgotten about them. I'm still working on their case, and that there's nothing new to, there's no new update on their case, just so they know that like I'm still like thinking about them.
And who are some of your demographics? Like, what are some of the immigration work that you do, and that if clients are looking to reach out to you or anyone within, the greater Boston area or even out of state would like for you to represent them, what are some of your expertise?
Mm-hmm. So the majority of my cases are green cards, usually through marriage or a special program like special immigrant juvenile status or asylum. I do a lot of green cards. I would say at least 80% of my practice is green cards. I also do deportation defense, which that's going to be interesting coming up because at least for Boston, I don't think they're scheduling any more master calendar hearings for 2020. And a master, kind of like an arraignment in criminal law, except immigration is civil. But it's the same concept. For your master calendar hearing, you appear before an immigration judge, and they're basically telling you why they want to deport you and what defenses you want to put forth in that. I've seen that they've already started scheduling people for like 2022. And even beyond that for their individual trial where they'll figure out whether or not they're going to get deported. So that's going to be interesting. But I do deportation defense. I do green card. I do immigration waivers, which I've been getting even more immigration waivers nowadays. I don't do business immigration. Not really. I have handled H-1B visas, but it's not something that I get often. And with the new executive order extension that went into effect a couple days ago, that's going to be a little bit challenging in the future as well.
And what would you say to people, immigrants, who fear that they may die, due to the pandemic, and they're going through all these things? What are some of the things that you can tell them, about what's going on? And is there anything new that is set in place to make sure that, the immigration population is safe?
Well, as far as immigrants that are being detained, if they have an attorney, they can, through their attorney, request to be released due to COVID, due to overcrowding, especially if they're in a demographic that, like age demographic or health demographic, where being confined with a lot of people in, a small amount of space detrimental to their health. So definitely, I haven't seen any judges, I haven't heard of any judges denying motions to release people due to COVID. It's not like a serious criminal or anything like that. They should be able to get out. As far as, people that are afraid that they're going to die, I don't really know what I could say to that. I try not to, speak things like that into existence.
Right.
I would try to, encourage them to be positive, make sure they're doing everything in their power to protect themselves, wear a mask, wash your hands, try to, socially distance as much as possible. I know it's really difficult for a lot of immigrants who work in industries where they can't work from home. So people that are in places and people working in grocery stores and things like that. I know it's, a lot of them can't work from home, but I would still encourage them to wear their mask and voice their concerns to their employers, because their employers do have a duty to keep them safe as well.
Right. And I know we have a lot of things going on in the world. We have a pandemic, and then we also have Black Lives Matter. What has been your experience throughout this whole Black Lives Matter movement? What is your experience? I give everyone the opportunity to share their experience, because it's real. And we are impacted every day. And as a woman of color who is doing wonderful things in the community, what has been your experience?
As far as, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, lately I've been having a lot of conversations with my white friends and colleagues who have been really receptive to hearing my story, hearing my experiences as a Black woman, child of immigrants living in this country. For me as a Black woman, I mean, I worry about my husband and my brother and my dad and, all of the Black men in my life. Like if I call them and they don't answer the phone, if I text them and they don't answer the phone, the first thing I think about is like, oh my God, were they pulled over? Or did they have a racist interaction with, an entitled white woman? Like that's where my mind goes, where I'm pretty sure a lot of white people don't have that. that's where my mind goes if I don't hear from my loved ones in X amount of period of time. So I'm encouraged by the fact that a lot of white people seem to be getting it now. This isn't really like an attack on you individually. You yourself did not start the system, but you do, and you contribute to upholding every day. So I do feel encouraged by the conversations I'm having with my white colleagues who want to learn how to be anti-racist children. But I also like to remind people that immigration and immigrants are part of the story as well.
Exactly, yes.
You know, maybe like, actually a couple of days ago, my mom was asking me, you know, should Haitian people be celebrating Juneteenth because, you know, like it's really like for African Americans to celebrate their liberation from, or their freedom from slavery, whereas, you know, Haitian people, like, we demanded our freedom. And I said, absolutely, we should be helping to celebrate, because things like that wouldn't have happened if not for the things that we, you know, our ancestors in Haiti did. So I think that, and I also feel like we should all be reminded that whether you're, you know, a Black person from the Caribbean or African American or a Black person from Africa, we're all Black. And this division within is not helping the cause. So I've just been having, like, while I've also been, you know, I've been having conversations with my white colleagues about how to be anti-racist. I've also been having conversations with my Black friends as well to help them understand why the division amongst us isn't helpful.
That's you said a wonderful thing, and it was well said. It's true. We all, at the end of the day, bleed the same blood, and this is a conversation that we need to have with everyone. I mean, oftentimes, you know, people are just ignorant and they don't see it because they have never experienced it. But for us to have a dialogue, it really is important so that we can look for the change that we want to see. And you mentioned a valid point. Immigration is also included too, because everyone is impacted. Immigration, people discriminate against immigrants all the time. You know, if our parents didn't come from Haiti and fought for an American dream, you and I would not exist. Right. So just think about all the discrimination they had to encounter when they came in, working odd jobs just to provide food on the table. So yes, it is. And, you know, it's just another layer of all the issues that we're having: COVID-19, immigration, you know, Black Lives Matter. And we just need to think now, what is the next step? I know the current administration at the White House is not doing anything to keep us together, which is, you know, kind of dividing us all. What are some of the things that you would like to see going forward as we get ready to vote in November for the next president election? Do you think that the presidential, I would say Joe Biden, do you think he has enough of a platform to help immigrations, you know, making the change that we want to see?
I think he does. And I mean, he's already said that on day one, so piggybacking off of last week's victory in the DACA case, the Supreme Court pretty much saved DACA. Now, DACA is still in danger of ending. But Joe Biden said that, you know, one of his promises was that he would do something for people that have DACA and people that have TPS. So that's promising. Whereas, you know, our current person in office wants to do the opposite. He wants to kick everybody out. So I think we've seen in the past 4 years, he ran a campaign on this. Every single thing he said that he was going to do as president, he has done. So people that think that he's going to do better, but especially immigrants, when I see immigrants wanting to support him, I'm like, how can you support him? Even if you know, I see a lot of immigrants that come from other countries and they become US citizens, and then they kind of forget where they came from. They forget their own people. And I see people in mixed status households where they're a US citizen and maybe they have somebody in their household who is not a green card holder, is not a citizen, and they still want to support this man. And like, do you not love your family members? Like, how could you, like, even taking the politics aside, like, this is somebody who is very divisive, very racist, very sexist, very anti-decent human being. And for you to still be supporting this 4 years later, like, you can no longer say, well, I'm not racist, but you're okay with having one in office, and that's not okay to me. So I think that one thing I would like to see is everybody go and vote on election day. Vote for the America that you want to see. I mean,
exactly.
that really encompasses all of us, really. And I also would like to see more green card holders applying to become U.S. citizens so they can be part in building the country that they want to be a part of. I want to see more people be active in politics. I think we've learned the hard way that elections have consequences, because while this man only can be in office 8 days maximum, unless he really creates a dictatorship and doesn't leave, the people that he's put on the bench are there for life. You know, the 2 Supreme Court justices that he voted on or nominated are there for life. All of the federal judges that he's had confirmed, they're there for life. And people need to understand that, you know, that's going to impact us and possibly roll back a lot of the rights that we have and enjoy today.
And do we have any updated information on TPS holders?
So TPS right now for various countries is scheduled to end January 4th of 2021, unless and until the current court case is decided before then or around then. So for people that have TPS, I always encourage them to meet with an immigration attorney to see what their options are. And I always say to meet with an immigration attorney because, for example, Liberians used to have TPS and then it ended and they had deferred enforced departure. But then in December of 2019, Trump signed a law that gave them a green card. So that was something that did not exist a couple of years ago. So I always say check in with an immigration attorney, see if there's anything new that could help your case. People with DACA, same thing. The Supreme Court just saved DACA. So if you have DACA and you don't have any criminal issues, go ahead and renew your status. Eventually, USCIS will start accepting new applications for DACA because there's a lot of people that qualified for DACA that didn't apply or didn't get qualified for DACA that can apply now. So again, just constantly check in with an immigration attorney to see if there's any developments in your case to see how you can get a more permanent benefit.
And nothing, like you stated, nothing is shut down. Immigration is still open. Any questions, any applications people want to send, they can still do it.
Yes, and I would encourage them to do so soon because for one, the filing fees are going to be going up, and he's already, you know, put a damper on immigration into the United States. I think the next thing that he's going to try to do is people who are already in the United States from being able to get green cards. So before it gets worse, now that you can do something about your status, go ahead and try to apply for a green card. Start the process. Even if you're a green card holder, file that I-130 just to get it in the system. Work on becoming a U.S. citizen because then your relatives won't be subject to the executive order.
Wow, okay, that's good to know. And is there other policies that I have forgotten to mention that you may know of that would be very informative to those who are tuning in or watching us on Facebook?
So one thing that's going to be changing soon is the asylum process. Asylum has changed so many times over the past couple of years, but the latest change that's scheduled to go into effect on August 25th of this year is that effective that date, if you're coming into the United States undocumented, so like if you're just crossing the border, have no paper, and you're applying for asylum, you will no longer be able to get a work card at all. And then if you're coming to the United States with some sort of authorization, like a visa, like a B2 visa, for example, and you apply for asylum, you have to wait a year before you can get a work permit. Now the current wait time is 150 days. So they're really trying to make it harder for people to apply for asylum and for people to get benefits from asylum. And also a couple days ago, if not yesterday, I can't remember, I have no concept of time anymore, but the state Supreme Court ruled that people that are applying for asylum can be processed for expedited removal, so meaning they can be deported without ever appearing in front of an immigration judge.
Wow, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it?
Right, I mean, yeah, pretty much the Supreme Court. So I say all that to say it's only going to get worse while he's still in office. So before it gets to the point where you can't apply for anything, go ahead and get those applications in because trying to make it harder for people to They're trying to make it more expensive for people to get benefits. So while things are as, lenient as they are, get your application.
And also, what I've noticed from some people that I've been talking to is that working permits, they expire. A lot of them are being expired in the few months or this year itself. They should also make sure that their application is completed to have it renewed. And do you know what would happen if it's not renewed, those applications for working permits?
If their work card is not renewed, if that's the only thing that they have showing that they have actual status in this country, it's hard to say because your work card depends on what application you're applying for. So like if it's where you're applying for asylum and you don't renew your work card, there isn't really that much of an impact now because the new law doesn't go into effect in August. But if you wait until beyond that, it might affect that. If you have an asylum application pending, and you're not in deportation proceedings yet, you're still protected from that. But what's happening a lot of times, especially because there are a lot of people that go to non-lawyers to have their asylum application form filled out, and then the people that are filling out the forms don't explain the process to them. Back in the day, you could just fill out the form, send it in, and you'd be waiting years before you ever appeared in front of immigration. So in that situation, you would get a work card and you'd live happily ever after while you're waiting for a decision on your asylum case. Sometimes it's not even like an asylum case, you just want the work card. But one of the things that this administration did early on was they changed the process. So now that doesn't really happen anymore. So now when you file, you're getting an interview within like 2 to 4 weeks or like 2 months or so. And if they don't think that your asylum application is valid or if they think it's fraudulent or something, they're just going to send you straight to deportation. And now you're in immigration court without an immigration attorney because you went to a non-lawyer to fill out the form thinking that you would just get the work card, but now you're in an even bigger mess than you thought you would be in.
And what about, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, with the VAWA petition? Do you help women who are impacted by domestic violence as well when it comes to, okay, can we talk a little bit more about that and what's going on when it comes to women who are impacted, especially immigrant women who are impacted by domestic violence? And we've heard a large amount of women impacted during COVID-19 because we were in isolation. Exactly. So you can just imagine what they were going through.
Right. So I don't really handle as many VAWA cases as I used to. In my career, I did a lot of them, but I found that it was just too emotional and I needed to kind of step away. And also I feared that like I'd end up in jail because I'd want to beat up all of these men. So I needed to distance myself from them. But I'm starting to take a couple on, but not as many as I used to. But there aren't really any changes that I know of with VAWA. You can still apply for a VAWA green card if you are married to a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, and you can show that most of the abuse happened in the United States. There's other nuances as well. And you don't have to apply with the permission of your spouse. You don't even have to tell your spouse that you're applying. And when you're applying, you can have all of the mail sent to your attorney or another safe address. So you don't have to feel like if you're applying for this relief from your husband that he's going to know about it and you're going to suffer more abuse because of it.
Right. Okay. Because I know, the domestic violence was on the rise during the quarantine, and my heart goes out to them, especially working for a domestic violence shelter, Phoenix House. We deal with a large amount of women who are impacted by domestic violence, but they're also immigrants. So just during the, during the pandemic, it was just so sad that all these things were happening. Some women are speaking out, but there's still a large amount that are not, and they really didn't know what to do. So it's important to have an immigration attorney as honest as you are to continue to do the work that you're doing in the community. And I've also heard about how immigration is automatically renewing prima facie forms. Are you aware of that as well?
So like for example, during COVID, I've heard some people whose green card applications are being approved without an interview. I was able to expedite a lot of my clients' work cards. So normally Um, well, nowadays, if you're getting a green card through marriage, they don't give you the green card until a week or two before the interview because they,
Mhm.
again, don't want you to be working and stealing jobs from Americans. So they make you wait for the work card. But during COVID, I was able to at least get a rush on that. So my clients didn't have to wait as long, and they were able to get their work cards after a month of applying.
Now, is there some stipulations? Some people would reach out to me and be like, hey, I have a friend that automatically got a card. They didn't do an interview, but I didn't get an interview yet. And I'm like, everyone's situation is different.
Yeah, I mean, people come to me all the time and say, hey, my friend got a green card in like 2 weeks. How come you can't do that for me? And I'm like, I don't think anyone's getting a green card in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And I don't know the situation with your friend's case, but from what you told me, this is your situation. So
Right.
everybody understand that every case is different. I have like so many green card through marriage cases right now, and none of them are the same. Like every single one of them is different. They're all getting a green card because they're married to a US citizen or a green card holder, but every single case is different. Some require waivers, some require like immigration, going back to immigration court. Every single case is different.
And so how do you think it's going to be looking like for you in the future? Do you go to detention centers, or do you plan on going to detention centers for your clients? Or would you keep the virtual route the way that we're doing now?
So I don't really go to detention centers. I haven't had, actually, it's not that I don't, I just haven't had any clients that were detained.
Hmm.
I haven't gone to detention centers actually in years. And then during COVID, I actually turned down some cases just because,
Hmm.
especially like once my husband got COVID, I'm like, I don't need to be anywhere. Like, first of all, I was self-quarantining.
Right.
So I ended up turning down some cases during that time. But I don't currently go to detention centers a lot, and that's just because I don't have any clients that are currently detained. As far
Hmm.
as going, I mean, I'm starting to meet with clients one-on-one again if it's absolutely necessary. And right now,
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out whether or not I'll even be keeping my office because I haven't really been using it much during quarantine. And
Hmm.
I had my business for years before I even had an office. So I'm gonna kind of see how things are going. Boston Immigration Court has said for the rest of the year, we don't even have to show up in court in person. We can just do everything telephonically or via video. So that's really helpful. So I'm kind of gonna see what
Hmm.
happens in court. And similarly, like I have some cases in family court. I don't handle family court unless it's directly related to an immigration case. But even their cases, like I don't have to appear in person. I can just do it through video. So I'm gonna
Right.
see what USCIS is doing, what the immigration courts are doing, and then I'll kind of gauge from that. But so far, my clients haven't had an issue with not meeting me in person. I have a lot of
Okay.
clients that don't even live in the United States, so I never meet them in person unless they want to pay for me.
Hmm.
So, like I had a client in Milan, and I'm like, if you want to pay for me to come see you in Milan, sure, like I'll totally go.
Wow.
But I have clients everywhere. As an immigration attorney, I'm licensed to practice law through all the 50 states. I can practice in like St. Thomas and like Puerto Rico. So I
Hmm.
can practice wherever. My clients are everywhere, literally. I have clients in Canada, Haiti, Italy, France, New Zealand. Like I have clients everywhere. So being virtual is not an issue for me. From day one with my law firm, my main mission was to make legal services accessible. And for me, that's really being big on social media, especially in the domestic violence route. When I first started my
Right.
career, a lot of my clients were domestic violence victims. And I knew that they couldn't just like go on a website and look up my stuff. So I would post a lot of stuff about domestic violence on social media. And then I started
Hmm.
doing videos, and they would DM me and say, thank you for posting this information, because at least if you're looking at things on social media, there's no paper trail or digital trail where someone could like look at your history and see that you watched my YouTube video from
Hmm.
Instagram or something like that. So I put a
Right.
lot of information, I put a lot of free information out there on my YouTube channel on Instagram so that I'm making legal services accessible, or at least legal information accessible. And I don't care if at the end of the day people don't hire me for whatever reason, but at least you have the information that you need to make an informed decision so that when you're going to speak with whatever attorney, that you kind of have an idea of what should be done or what could be done. If someone is, and someone is promising you a green card or a work card or any immigration benefit, like run from them, because as attorneys, ethically, legally, we can't promise you any results because it's not up to us to give green cards and work cards and
Hmm.
things. So anybody who's going to promise you that, like, don't buy it. They're probably doing it in some type of fraudulent way that could end up impacting your future, like, for the rest of your life.
Yes, and I think we spoke about that a couple of years ago when you were on the show. Like, you need to watch out for certain people who say they can help you get it, and they charge you a ridiculous amount of money just to give you something that is not realistic. We've heard, especially in the Haitian community, we've heard a lot of people saying that, oh, I can fill out this application for you, and then you end up spending more money than you really need to, because you're trying to look for this shorter route of getting what you want. So what are some of the things, what are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to immigration?
So I think what you said is very important. I'm working with a case, actually I have 2 cases right now, where the reason why they end up in deportation proceedings in the first place is because somebody filled out their application and just put stuff on it that wasn't true just to get them a green card and a visa. And then they ended up in legal proceedings, and they had a fraud ruling against them, which is very bad. But I think do's and don'ts is, do talk to an immigration attorney. Make sure that the person is actually licensed. The immigration attorney doesn't have to be licensed in your state necessarily. Again, I have clients all over. A licensed attorney. Try to get references. Like, I post, I have a lot of reviews on my Google page. I post some on my law firm page. Like, talk to people, get referrals, make sure that this person is actually an immigration attorney and that they have a good reputation. Also, understand that immigration law is more complicated these days, so you're going to have to pay a little bit more than you have in the past, especially when it comes to public charge. Public charge rule, USCIS estimates it's going to take them about like 14 and a half additional hours to review everybody's public charge application, and that's just review. So keep in mind the amount of time that you have to go into preparing that. So just understand that you're not going to be able to get a green card for like $500, and that you're going to have to pay a little bit if you're hiring an attorney. But it's worth it, because nowadays you really don't have any room for error. You really can't make any mistakes. Starting in 2018, they said that they can deny your application and send you to deportation if you're missing something, if you forgot to check a box, if you filled out something wrong. And I've seen that. You want to make sure this is your life, this is your freedom. Like, don't try to, get a shortcut. Like, you're gonna have to pay a certain amount of money to have something done. You might end up in a situation where you're paying more than you would have paid them if you just went with them in the first place.
Right.
Always more expensive to fix something than to just do it right the first time.
Yeah, I see it all the time. People lie and tell innocent people who are working 2 jobs just to make it in this world, and then someone else rips them off for false promising them something that they cannot deliver. And it's really important, like you said, for people to really check out who they're dealing with. And if someone says they can give you something in 5 days, chances are you and that person are not going to see tomorrow, because they'll probably get arrested and you'll be deported back to your country. So it's important to let people know, when it comes to immigration, there is a process, and it could be a long process, and you have to be patient. So that's very important to know that. Yeah. And Bianca, tell us how people can get in touch with you, your information. I will also share it on Facebook as well. But if someone's looking to get in touch with you, they like your honesty, they like all the information that you're providing, because you've done a wonderful job in the Haitian community and all different communities that you've impacted. So please share your information so that people can reach out to you and get some advice.
Sure. So you can visit my website. It's brazenlegal.com. And you can search Brazen Legal on YouTube. I have hundreds of videos on free information. I talk about everything from green cards, deportation, asylum, public charge, almost everything that has to do with immigration. You'll find it in one of the playlists on my YouTube page. And I'm on social media everywhere at Brazen Legal. And if you wanted to call my office, you can call me at 50942-493.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on Voice of Reason Boston. We appreciate you, and definitely we will have you back again because we will need to talk about this because this is not going anywhere. Thank you, and stay safe, and best wishes to your husband, and keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. And thank you to all my listeners on WEZE 590 AM, as well as all who was watching me on Facebook. And we are also on Instagram at Voice of Reason Boston. And we also on Twitter at Voice Boston. So thank you for tuning in. My name is Tamisha Civil, and I'm your host. Thank you.